Hello, and welcome to Lecture 4, Advanced Filtering in SQL. So, like I mentioned in the previous lecture, we have seen basic select statement, and a quick recap. Select is the selection language of SQL, and we use select to get the data out of the database. And then we have seen simple select statement, and now we are moving towards a bit complicated select statement. Like I mentioned in the previous slide, most of the time the reporting are based on the selection queries, and trust me, you're gonna write practically some really advanced select statement where I mentioned that sometimes the input doesn't make any sense for the output, but then we apply different logics to transform our queries in a way that it produces the expected output. So now today we're going to discuss, because last time we have seen some basic filtering, and if you remember, we have used where clause. Where clause is the command that is part of select statement, and it filter out unnecessary records from the result sets. So last time we have seen a very simple select statement where we apply the filter on the department, and we filter the records by department ID. So today we're gonna see a bit advanced filtering techniques in select statement. And just keep in mind, once you understand these select filtering, it will help you to reduce the data set to the amount that is required based upon the requirement. So keep in mind that's very important topic for writing the actual queries. And in data analytics, especially during the wrangling process, we do a lot of data transformation and data selection and filtering to filter out the unnecessary record, and even uh, just a quick overview of the wrangling process. We normally get the data in a really raw shape which doesn't make any sense, and then we start applying different kind of operation to transform that data into a sense that convey some particular message. Depends upon the requirement, and sometimes, especially with the analytics and data sciences, the difference between normal role and data analyst and data science role, the difference is like you don't have any criteria. You need to look at the data, you need to find the interesting questions by yourself, and then you need to find the answers for them by yourself, and then you need to present to the management so they can make the decisions based on these findings, right? So but it all come back on a very basic level on the filtering. So filtering is more like a part of the wrangling process. So just keep in mind once you are looking into this video, and that will help you in future for writing your own queries that filter out I would say garbage, or sometimes just filter out unnecessary record that you don't need at the high level. So now, coming towards the filtering commands which are available, uh, I will come back towards the relational operators in the later video, but in this video we're gonna see logical conditions which actually help us to generate the advanced criteria. The logical operation information has been available in this link. And Oracle, like I mentioned in the start, Oracle is really good in terms of documentation, that it keep everything in a nice and clean documentation in HTML and PDF format on their website. And the documentation was pretty old, like it's quite stable, and you can learn by yourself result once you start understanding how the things are working. So you can go back, and then if you want to see things in further detail, you can go to the docs.oracle.com to select the database, and then go to the version you want to use, and then you will see the condition. All right, so coming back towards the logical condition, I'm gonna first show you a simple query, and then we'll start generating some advanced filtering based on that query. So I'll come back to this slide later. Okay. So if you remember last time, if I quickly if I select and write it, you can, if you remember in the last video we have filtered the employees records by department, right? And in the department, you can see we have applied the filter and department ID is equal to 90. So it's only showing us the records where the department ID is 19. Now today we are going to one level ahead, and we are now advancing our criteria. So even before moving and applying, I just want to mention a couple of things, and we call them logical operators. So in logical operator, we have three operators: and, or, and not. These operators combine different kind of conditions, and then based on that, based on the results of those conditions, it will decide whether it's going to bring the record in the result set or not. So what's the speciality for and, or, and not? It's very simple. For and, just keep in mind all conditions need to be true. So if you have two conditions, if both conditions are true, then and will bring that record, and I'll show you it with the example. Or is completely opposite. Or means that either of the condition is true, then it will bring the record. If both conditions, or I would say all the conditions, are false, it will not bring that record in the final result sets. Not will reverse the result. Like for example, if for example we are getting data from department ID is equal to 90, if I apply the not operator, so it will not bring the record from department ID 90, but it will bring anything else. So I will explain how that will work, right? Here I will also tell you, with each condition, the result is always one of two value. It is going to be either true or it's going to be false. So it cannot be, and there is another one which we call null, but we'll look into it separately. All right. True or false are normally the main return value of the condition. So for example, if I'm saying, let's say department ID is greater than 10 or equal to 10. So wherever in each record where the condition is equal to 10, or where the department ID is equal to 10, the condition will be true, and that records appear in the result set. If the department ID is other than 10, then it will not appear appear in the final result set. So keep it in mind, and then we will bring the additional logical operators to build some advanced filter criteria. Okay, now coming back to our actual queries. Obviously, like I mentioned, I'm gonna upload this file on with all the queries on GitHub, so you can download and you can run by yourself. If you have any problem in setting up the environment, you can download the appliance from the provided location, and you can run the queries by yourself. You just need to set up, and I think I have already provided the separate video to how to set up the virtual development environment to follow along. So let me first run from this one. So you can see we can see department ID 90. All the records which have department ID 90, they are appearing. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply the very first because that's it, that's a simple operator. So I'm gonna say not department ID. So even if you can read it where not department ID is equal to 90. So what it will do, it will reverse the condition. So that means all those record where department ID is not equal to 90, it will bring it, because how it works, it check the condition first. So department ID is equal to 90. So if the record has the department ID is 90, it's going to return true. But what not did, not will change the true to false. So that means where the condition is false, the record will not appear. But if the department ID is not 90, then this condition is going to be false up to here. But what not did, it will change the result of false into true, and that records appear. To just prove the claim, let's run this query. You can see we have all departments IDs are appearing where department ID is not equal to 90. Just to clean the results, what I'm going to do, I'm going to sort by department, and in the previous video we have seen how we can do it. Let's run, and you can see we can see the results 10, 20, 30, 50, and then we have 60, 70, 80, but after 80 we have 100. And why we have 100? Because wherever the department ID is equal to 90, the condition is true, but not is reversing the result. So it will turn the condition. And in order to, and why we called it filtering, because in order a record to come into the result set, the condition has to be fulfilled, or condition should return true for that record, then it will be part of the result sets. So now that's not operator. We'll move on to the next one, where we have applied the AND operator. Now you can guess the results because we have applied the AND condition, and what we have mentioned between the AND, and I mentioned previously that all the condition needs to be true, right? So here for simplicity I just put 2 condition, but if we have 4, 5, 6 condition, all those condition needs to be true if we are applying the AND operator. All right, so we are trying to get the results where the department ID is 90 and department ID is equal to 60. But if we look at the record, we are only allowed to store one value in the department ID column. So obviously, if we have department ID 90, that condition will be true, but at the same time, that condition will be false, which will at the end return a false result, because and will only return true when all the condition returns true, right? Pretty straightforward. So based on that, and if the department ID has 60, this condition is going to be true. However, department ID 90 is going to produce false, and true and false with an operator will generate false result. Again, both condition needs to be true in order to put that record in the result set. So again, prove the point. Let's run this query, and we have nothing. All right. So pretty straightforward. You can run these queries by yourself, and you can see the outcome. Now, the OR operator. Like I mentioned, OR operator is reverse of the AND operator. Like it just need one condition to be true in order to bring the record in the final result set. So it will only return false when all the conditions are true. So let's first run it by verbally. So where department ID is 90. So if we have a record where department ID is 80, that's going to false this condition because that is not 90, and that's going to return false on this condition as well because it is not 60. So both false will return false. So the record which has department ID 80 is not going to come in the result set. However, if we have department ID 90, so that condition will be true, but at the same time department ID is equal to 60 will be false. But because we are using OR operator, so that will generate the final result as true, because one of the condition is producing true outcome. So just keep in mind, for department ID 90, the result will be part of the result set. Now, same thing if we apply on department ID is equal to 60. Now, the record, if it has department ID is equal to 60, that condition will return true. However, the first condition will return false. So false or true will return true, because one of the condition is already producing false. And we know, like I'm reiterating, that if all the conditions in the where clause they are producing false, then it will not bring the result as a part of the result set. So again, running the query, and we have an error, and that error is deliberate because I want to show you that that's semicolon is the command terminator. So if you have any clause after that semicolon and you run the command, that will generate problem for the compiler while it's parsing your query, and it's going to identify the command has already been completed at this point. So we cannot add any further clause after the terminator. So we have two options, either to remove the additional clause or remove the terminator. So I'm going to remove the terminator and then run the clause, the query again. And now you can see we have all the employees records which have either a department ID 60 or department ID 90. And because the results are sorted by department, so we don't have any problem to see and understand the implication of the OR operator. Like we can see that we are getting records which are from department ID 60 and 90, but all other departments, they are filtered because they are not matching with this condition. Cool. So now moving on, where we need to apply a bit more complicated filtering criteria. And what we are going to do, wherever we have the department ID 90 and department ID 60, which we already seen is always generate false. So we are applying the not operator on the overall result. And you can see that small bracket that will actually group the conditions in the where clause. You know, if we keep putting the condition one after another, then there is a particular order that Oracle used to generate the result, and sometimes it is not according to what our expectation are. So therefore we have the parentheses which actually define the order of the evaluation of the condition. So whatever we have mentioned in the parentheses, that's gonna be evaluated first, and whatever will be the outcome, not will apply on the outcome, and then based on that it will decide whether that record will be part of the result set or not. So for example, within the parentheses we have one condition, department ID is 90 and department ID is 60. One of them will be true and the other one will be false, but and operator will return false because it requires all conditions to be true. However, that's now this time it's only the result of the internal evaluation, and we have another operator which is sitting outside, which is not, which will reverse the outcome. So if it is coming as true, it's gonna change to false, or if it is coming as false, it's gonna change to true. So we can see whatever come out of the department ID 90 and department ID 60, it will always come as a false. So not operator will always turn into true. So what it will do, it will show all the results set or all the records from the employee table. So you can see we have a lot of records, and that's I think I mentioned last time, Oracle is pretty smart. It only fetch limited records, like to avoid any pressure on the server, and also to show the results in minimum time. So you can see it only fetch 50 records, but if I scroll down and it cross 50, then you're gonna see it will change and it will show that okay, next fetch another next 50, and then you are able to see. So 50 badge is the default that it will show on the screen. Pretty smart, because it will avoid additional pressure where we don't have like SQL Server, we don't have this criteria, and sometimes query takes minutes and minutes to execute the result sets, because it will keep generating the data set for the user, right, regardless of seeing whether user need it or not, and putting so much pressure on the server, right? But we will see in the optimization topic. So if I right click and I calculate the total records, so we have 106 records. And if I come in here and I count, we have 107 records. So that means there is a department ID where we don't have department ID available, and I will come to that one and we can see in here. I don't want to include it in the discussion, it will confuse, but just keep in mind, like, we are getting almost all the results except where department ID is null. Now, the last one, you can see where we have or, and now we are applying the not operator after evaluating the internal condition. And I think now we can guess the results, because now we can run it before even executing. In real time, we can find out what it's going to return. So you can see, excuse me, uh, it's going to return all those records where department ID is either 90 or department ID is either 60. However, the outer operator, which is not, that's gonna reverse the outcome. So that means if I run it for department ID is equal to 90, the internal condition will generate true to include the record, but the not operator changed the outcome from true to false, so that we mean that record is not going to come in. Same will be happen with department ID is equal to 60, because it will come as a part of internal evaluation of this condition. However, not operator will change the true into false. Now, just take another example where we have department ID is equal to 80. So the first condition is going to be false. The second condition is going to be false. So the internal condition will return true. Sorry, internal condition will return false. However, the outer condition not will change from false to true. So that means it will return all those records where department ID are neither 90 nor 60. So keep in mind, because that's now going a bit complicated, and just keep in mind, in real time or in day-to-day business, we apply these operators to filter out the outcome, because once we start writing our queries for the business, we need to look at the requirement, and then we decide, okay, these are the criteria where we need to apply the filter to exclude all the unnecessary data, and that is exactly mapped to the business rule. So hopefully you understand these advanced filter criteria. In the next video, we're gonna see the other operators, for example, like, because like is another operator that has been used a lot for the filtering, and null operator if we want to exclude the null, because if you remember, we are only getting 106 record. However, we have the total records as is equal to 107. So how we can handle the null, and why it is not appearing in the result set. So these are all the topics of the next lecture. Hope you enjoy this video. If you like it, please like or subscribe the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.